This is Scott Harney from Esoteric Guides, and it's great to be here with Alan Steinfeld from New Realities, and we're here to talk to Raja Choudhury. And Raja Choudhury, he's a spiritual teacher. He lived in New York. He's recently returned to New York. He's a Renaissance man, a filmmaker, an architect, public speaker, and more importantly, he's a spiritual teacher now, and he's based out of the New York area. And we have the opportunity to see him next Friday on the 2nd of September. So Raja is known, he's spontaneously awakened his Kundalini through his spiritual practices. And actually, this happened in New York City, didn't it, Raja?
Yes, it did.
Which is, and, you know, he's very well known for his Shift Network show. And he's the head of now Thousand Sons Academy. And his first public appearance will be this Friday in New York City. And yeah, we're very glad to see him. And I know Al and I have a number of questions for you.
I do, because I'm fascinated by the idea of Kundalini Awakening. So I'd love to hear, if you want to start there, what happened to you? How did it activate, and what were the results of that awakening?
Sure. And so are you spotlighting each person, or what happens?
Yeah, did you hear my sound okay, Scott?
Yes,
perfect.
Fine. We can
okay, I'm going to I can spotlight you, or you can do it.
I got it, yeah.
Actually, you have to do it because you're...
Here we go.
Yeah, no, you're
I'm going to make you
Oh, you haven't spotlighted me yet.
No, you are.
Now you're spotlighting.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you're spotlighting.
Good.
Oh.
No, it's still Alan on the screen.
No, you want me to spotlight? If you make me...
He's on the screen. He's good.
Well, he's not on the screen yet.
No, it's still Alan.
No, you have to spot under the, do you see under the, I'll pin it. I pinned him. Okay, now, go, Rodri.
Okay, all right.
Talk about your Kundalini, if you want to start there.
Sure, but I'm still seeing you on the screen, that's
you
all.
Are?
Yeah, now I'm here now, great.
Okay.
All right, greetings everyone, I'm Raja. Everybody calls me Raja Da. It means brother, and I'm here to, we're talking about both Kundalini, Shakti, and the third eye today, and it's fascinating because my own journey, like most people in the West, began with psychedelics, and it was back in '98, and I had an incredible quest that lasted a few days. And when I came out of it, I made a conscious decision. I was living in London at the time. I made a conscious decision that I would find a way to do it without medicine. And that was the big challenge, How can I achieve those visionary states without any help? So I went on a quest, and I moved to New York that year. And, I started with Self-Realization Fellowship and did Kriya Yoga. Then I did Raja Yoga with the Swamis of the Ramakrishna Mission in the Upper East Side. I was in New York at the time, being a creative director and a filmmaker, all happening in New York, making good money. But this esoteric pull was so strong. It was like an incredible force that was driving my life. And I remember I started doing Kriyas, and I was doing Vedanta, and then I discovered Tantra, which is, I started working with Shakti mantras. Tantra is, in esoteric terms, Tantra is not sexuality. Tantra is mantra marg. It's the path of mantra, the path of the sacred feminine goddess to awaken you. So that means embodied consciousness in the body.
Were there particular mantras that actually awaken that?
Yes.
Okay.
And in particular, the Kundalini mantras are very connected to sexuality in what is called Lalita Tripura Sundari, and the work of Bala Tripura Sundari. And that is multiple forms of the Dash Mahavidyas of Kali. So it's a Kali Krama. It's a process of worshiping Kali through different manifestations and stages in the body, and withdrawing further inwards and inwards and inwards. So the Kundalini itself is considered to be a goddess. It's not an energy. It is a goddess. It's a Shakti. And she sits, the story goes, it's a wonderful story. Mythically, it's a story of how Sati fell to earth in 51 places and then hid one of herself in the human body so that we would never find it, but unless we looked really hard, you know. and it's a wonderful idea that what's happening in esoteric terms is that embodied consciousness, the human body, Shakti, us in every cell, in every atom, is trying to seek union with consciousness and vast, incredible, non-dual consciousness. And that consciousness is described as Shiva. So the dance is between Shakti and Shiva. And it is and that union that occurs is the purpose of Kundalini Awakening. It is the whole union that occurs, and it happens in three ways. Once down in your sexuality, once down in your heart, and once in your third eye, and then boom, you're out the other side.
But let me ask you, do you need a partner, or do you just meditate on the goddess?
It's actually nothing to do with partner. It is to do with an inner conversion, alchemical conversion of energies in your body, you know. And so the way we describe it is that we have what is called ojas, which are these liquidy, beautiful substances that make us sexual, and all down there, you know, all the urinary stuff and the bladder and the semen and the vaginal juices and all that's there. Converting that into fire, tejas, is the purpose. And that conversion occurs through the spinal cord. And when it occurs in the spinal cord, it can happen by retention, it can happen by intention, like putting it up, or by mantra. Mantra is the sweetest way to do it, because mantra wakes up each energy center by vibration. And as you wake up the energy centers, you enter an ecstatic state in different stages. And that then opens this third eye, the Agya Chakra, and boom, that's when it begins to happen.
Well, I want to say that you're going to be teaching this tomorrow in New York City, right?
No, next Friday,
Friday,
2nd of September. You know, what I wanted to do was that that what we have here is just imagine it is the ultimate idea of making love to yourself. You know, this is the key. Yes, you can do it with a partner. That's called the Kaula path. And the Kaula path is the sexual yogic practices that is about not ejaculating or not having an ejaculation, but turning it inwards with a partner so that both of you have an ecstatic union, and then you both become Shiva and Shakti, and bang, you come together. That, you know, is what got misplaced in Western thinking of what Tantra really means. But what Tantra really means is to create a weave of your own into ecstatic bliss, into Ananda. And that ecstatic bliss that comes is the most incredible thing that can happen to anybody. You know, I had my opening in September of 2006 in New York City, of all places. You know, I'm on the Upper East Side, you know, living the good life of a creative director, making good money, doing my thing, going and meditating. You know, I'm thinking meditating, you know, I'm just meditating. And I started doing these mantras to Lalita with my Kriya breathing. And this immense explosion occurs that can I show you a couple of pictures of what it looked like?
Yeah. Well, why don't you just do the breathing if you want right there?
Sure, I will. Let me just show you first.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Let me show you what I first saw.
Okay, great. Beautiful.
You know, I'm an artist, so I make visuals of these.
Did you make that visual?
Yes, I did.
Very nice.
This is from one of my movies.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
I make movies as well, yeah. And so we are breaking this boundary, right, between mind and reality. And you know, this is what we're creating, is a portal. Everywhere we look is a portal into this wonderful world.
Beautiful.
These are just pictures from elsewhere, but this is a typical near-death experience vision that people have, which is very similar to Kundalini Third Eye Awakening, right? Then this is from Dante's Inferno, the book, you know, these visuals that Dante had created that were the paintings of what it would be like to have the beatific vision to enter heaven. Again, very similar, you know. And it's like you're going into, we in Tantra, we call it Choudhury, which means becoming a skywalker. Now you know where Joe Campbell and all of them got it from for Star Wars, you know, the Skywalker. Choudhury literally means Skywalker, you know, to become one with the yoginis. And the real tantric way of looking at it is that we are in the mother's womb, and at the center of this womb is a bindu, a portal through which we can go. And so we're taking this journey to awaken, and through that bindu, sexual union occurs of Shiva and Shakti, and boom, we go to a non-dual state called Turiya. And that's the whole practice, you know.
Sexual union between physical people, physical humans, you're saying?
Between me and consciousness.
Oh, okay.
Between me and my own consciousness.
That's
so
the union.
That is the ecstatic union you're seeking, you know. And
so when you merge with your own consciousness, it is blissful, you're saying.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know, I have never seen and felt such ananda in my life. I did so many, I'm a happy person generally, but this silly smile and this glow on my face is all from that.
and you're saying you could teach this? You could teach
I do. I have, Scott is one of my students. That's why he's glowing so beautifully right now. Scott, you got that glow about you, baby.
People ask me all the time, and I say, "Yep, it's Kundalini."
But how long does it take to get that union? Does it happen instantly?
Well, you will experience the bliss of it instantly, but for it to remain a permanent rewiring in your neuroplasticity, you need to work at it. Normally we see that people have a tangible effect within 44 to 66 days, you know.
Is it mantras every day you're talking about?
It's kriyas and mantras combined together. I'll come to that in a second.
Okay, great.
This is the first start. When I first started seeing the visionary states, these were the kind of first visions, and which is the occipital lobe triggers a blue circle, and that happens. Then it started to open up into a vesica piscis, like a vagina started to open for me. And I would see inside the blue circle a vagina that I could go into. And it was like a cosmic vagina that was pulling me in. And it was quite spectacular. And then on that day in September, this exploded in my head. My spinal cord just went ecstatic. I was, electric storms everywhere. And that lasted for 3 full days. It was insane. It was the most incredible trip I had ever had in my life, and I've had many trips. And this was it. This was the breakthrough moment.
Wait, so you said you did a lot of psychedelics and things like that?
Back in my 30s, yes. When I was in my 20s and 30s,
and nothing compared to this awakening.
Oh, no.
All right. Okay. And this and when did this happen? How many years ago?
2006 was my big first explosion, and then it's been continuous after that. Yeah. So what happens? It's like a portal starts calling you, and you enter this kind of infinite, beautiful stages of colors and ecstatic bliss. And this was later on, it started to emerge into this form. And then now we call it the Sudashan Chakra. This is what I see today. This is what calls me into the heart bliss. It's like I'm dealing with an entity at the borderline of rational thinking into the complete irrational world out there. And, it's like we see it as a goddess, because every experience of it for me has been, whether you're female or male, it doesn't matter. A sacred feminine energy is encapsulating you for sure. The Kundalini is a sacred feminine energy. And, this is how it feels, like the womb and the egg inside the womb, it's beautiful. And
Roger, I have a question now.
Yes.
Sure. The goddess plays an integral role in Kundalini Awakening, correct?
Yes.
Now, say if someone isn't of the Hindu, of the Hindu faith, what does the goddess show up as? In other words, can you awaken Kundalini without, for instance, Lalita or Kali?
So we say goddess, but Shakti is actually sound. It's sound vibration, right? All resonances between consonants, vowels in a mystical way are called Shakti. They are utterances of the universe comes into being by logos, by sound. And that first sound that emanates, we call it, the pranava is Om, but then it becomes Aim, which is called Mahasaraswati. So that becomes a goddess energy in the tantric path, but Aim is a sound that's in every esoteric tradition. So you're taking that in, then you have sounds like Shreem and Kleem and Hreem that start to activate these centers. So when you think about it, you are a living temple, whether you see it as a Sephiroth or you see it as a Kundalini pillar or you see it as a Jacob's ladder along your spinal cord, it's irrelevant. You are a living neurological mystical being that can be triggered by sound. And as you go through the different sounds, it's like playing a flute on your spinal cord, you awaken all these energies. The Indians decided to call them sacred goddesses, and they were called Shaktis. And that's where the Indian system comes from, because the experience of it is so loving and so blissful and so all enrapturing that you feel like you're in the womb of the mother. That's how you feel, that's the whole feeling.
Beautiful. It sounds so great. I think everyone should do your course. Just tell people how to find the course next weekend.
I have a link here that I'll share with you.
Put it in the chat, and
yes,
I'll put it
and Scott's already putting it in. And let me just show you one slide, and that shows you. So if you have a phone, just point it at this, and you can scan it, or you can go to tiny.one, open third eye, and that'll take you to the Eventbrite page.
Well, let me just try that. Let me
just point at it.
That's amazing. Okay, it takes you to the Eventbrite page.
There you go.
Okay, wow, great.
High tech, very high tech.
It is high tech. Amazing. So tell us a little more then about, your story. So you had this awakening and you had this bliss, and I think there's a lot of times it goes away, that bliss, right? It fades.
Well, what happens is that we call the awakening of Kundalini the churning of the Milky Ocean, right? Because the churning happens at your heart center. So if you imagine that your one group of beings are pulling you up into the light, another group of beings are keeping you down below in the darkness of your lower chakras, right? So embodiment is trying to resist expansion into light. This is the classic demiurge concept in Gnosticism. It's that we've got to go towards the light. Now, this churning occurs in the heart. So once you start to raise Kundalini, it triggers so much activation in the lower chakras of resistance, of burning of traumas, or removing of fear, that you go through this kind of classical kind of catharsis and dark night of the soul cleansing that's required. It is from earth upwards you start to cleanse. But by the time you can get it up to your heart center, which happens quite quickly with this work that we have been practicing, your churning occurs at the heart center. And once it starts churning from the heart center, the rate at which you diminish back into darkness goes away. It goes very low. So you end up in a more samatha, what we call samatha in Buddhism and in Hinduism also, which is a balanced state of equilibrium between your masculine, your feminine, heaven and earth, and you're perfectly balanced. And if you can maintain that balance, you can then become a skywalker and start going upwards. That's how it works.
A skywalker means what, though? What is that actually?
So Choudhury, I want you all to try something, all right?
Yeah, good, thank you.
First of all, let's ground ourselves in earth. So how do we ground ourselves in earth? We call it the Ashwini Mudra, right? It's a beautiful mudra. It means to rein in the flying horses, right? Isn't that a beautiful idea? That all my mind, my body, my biology is flying away from me. I control, right? So I want to rein them in. So what do? I clench my butt, right? Mm-hmm. But I clench it with a double clench. I clench it first, and then I pull my penis or my vagina back as well. So just imagine 1 and then 2, right? Can you do that?
I'm doing it.
Try it with me. Like a double breath. Then you put the tongue to the roof of the mouth. You bend your head back and you tighten the neck here at the back. And you hold it. And hold it for a few seconds. And you'll start feeling heat at the base of your spine. Keep your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And now double breathe it and release it. Let's do it again. Double in and then hold and then double out.
Let me
Ready?
sit up and do this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Hold. And double it out. Again.
Good.
Let's do it
Okay.
again. Clench and pull your penis back or your vagina back. For a woman, you're pulling the vagina upwards in the muscles, and for a man, you're pulling the penis backwards. And you touch the roof of your mouth and you double it out. Now,
Good.
this simple breath begins to trigger a movement up the center of the spinal cord. You will begin to feel a stirring along the Shushumna, right? This middle passage in the spinal cord. But now I want you to do one more thing. I want you to put a little pressure on your penis area or your vagina area. Just put a little pressure on there. And imagine snakes are swirling. And I want you to chant the sound VAM. V-A-M, VAM, 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 VAM. So remember how I described it as playing a flute along your spine?
Mm-hmm.
There are 6 sounds to awaken the notes, right? The notes of the double clenching one is lum, lum. Then in the sexual area, it's vam, vam. And then you come to the Manipura, the belly button, and you imagine a fire lighting there to burn away all your traumas and release the goddess energy in you. And here you chant Ram, 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 Ram. Now, if you practice those 3, you take control of your lower reptilian brain. So it calms everything down. Now you're ready to move to the heart center, and which you will discover if you come and train with me or come on Friday and we'll do it together. But very quickly, I'll show you a technique of immediately feeling the activation of the third eye. Shall we do that?
Yes, we should. But I just want to say,
Yeah.
it's like the body is a technology, and we have the handbook I found was a way to activate this incredible system with highest potential.
It is exactly that. In fact, the Tantrics who wrote the book on it, the book was called the Chakra Nirupana, which literally means manual of the 6 chakras. I mean, it was an esoteric manual on how to wake up step by step to basically look. The whole practice of dharma of any Hindu, Indian practice, Vedic practice is dissolution of self into supreme self, right? That's the entire work. So in Tantra, the body becomes a sacred temple to do it in. That's the difference. While in Vedanta and yoga, the body is to be stilled and controlled and let go. And then you go into the other side. With Tantra, you can use the body as a tool to wake up. So I can do it with the sex I have, with the food I enjoy, with the smoking good ganja together, or eating good sacred medicines together, or just sipping a glass of wine in New York City with you, my brother, or just doing or listening to good reggaeton or reggae music and just dancing. Anything is a tool to wake up.
But that's the difference between the Shakti path and the Bhakti path, right?
Well, Bhakti path requires devotional surrender, while
Right.
Shakti path is surrender through ecstasy.
Oh, that sounds like more fun.
It is more fun.
Okay.
We end up at the same non-dual state, but what fun we have along the way.
Okay. So you're going to teach this technology because it is a practice.
So on Friday, I'm going to give you a journey of ecstasy that you will experience when you come on the
Oh,
second.
let's do a little practice right
I
now.
will
A
do
little
a little bit,
taste.
but just a teaser.
A
Because
little taste. Just
if I do it
not
now,
the
you
whole
may not
meal.
want to come back from the skywalking. You may not want to come back down. You want to go drifting off into who knows
All
where
right.
you end up.
Okay, let's have a little taste.
All right.
Little-
So now we've done the
Yeah,
tightening.
yeah,
So
yeah.
now I want you to open, just look up into this spot between, or you can look at the tip of your nose or just here and just rub it with 2 fingers. Just rub your eyebrow and look up at it, the rubbing. And if you look up there, you'll start seeing that a kind of swirling northern lights begins to happen, kind of like a,
Mhm.
a dark, maybe a bluish gray or
Yeah,
light. Yeah,
I
it'll
see
start
it.
to happen. See how it works? It just begins to happen like a blue light, right? And I want you to keep your mind at that spot that you've been rubbing. And now just do one thing. Put your thumb in front of you, 12 fingers in front of your nose, right? And I want you to look at the thumbnail and gaze at it softly. Soften your eyes so you're kind of out of focus slightly and blurring. And then I want you to lift your thumb up to just above the crown of your head and look there. Keep gazing at the thumb and keep gazing, keep gazing. And now close your eyes and keep your eyes gazing at the same spot you just left. Keep gazing up there. And I want you to listen to me. Imagine from above you, a beam of light is coming in like cosmic bliss with the sound of hum as you breathe in. Hum. Bring it down to your heart center while still gazing up at that third eye and release it back up into cosmos with the sound sa. Hum. Sa. Keep gazing up. Hum. Sa. Now put the tongue to the roof of your mouth and slide it back towards the uvula and open your mouth slightly and take in a deep breath through your mouth like an ujjayi sound, like a husky sound. And now I want you to hiss it out like a serpent breath. And release the tongue from the roof of the mouth. And now again, roll the tongue back to the uvula. Release it like a serpent breath. And again. And now gaze up again at that same spot you were looking at. And I want you to cup your eyes with your palms and just look up there. And just gaze into that beautiful infinite blackness, and maybe a blue light will come and a circle will begin to form. And just keep looking up there, keep looking up there. And keep gazing up there. And feel an intelligence pulling you up towards it. A beautiful intelligence showing you a portal, a gateway. And just relax, rub your face and come back. And keep your eyes closed and just keep looking up there. Hum. Sa. And you'll see that suddenly everything seems brighter in your head. It's almost like a luminous quality is beginning to come. Maybe a little portal is opening, like a red dot or a circle. Maybe nothing, maybe just feels more luminous. And I want you to bring that light down and take it down to your throat, to your heart center, and just put your right hand on your heart and rub your chest. And feel a beautiful dripping of the nectar of immortality is pouring down into your heart, to your hridaya. and you'll start feeling a tingling at the left side of your spine in the back, where your vagus nerve hits the heart. You'll start feeling a wonderful tingling. And this is the beginning of that bliss that'll come with time. There you go, sneak preview.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful practice. And you do that on your own after the class. You lead people and then they practice. That's their practice.
That is true. And I am a guru in what is called a Sri Vidya lineage. So I am allowed to give mantra, and I'm allowed to give Shakti path as well. And so I can help you, those who come to my deeper work, get the benefit of that lineage coming through transmission to them as well. You know.
Now, did you have a teacher yourself?
I did. I had many teachers. You know, there's a wonderful saying in Kashmir Shaivism that Abhinav Gupta, the great Kashmir Shaivism thinker, said. He says, I was like a bee going from teacher to teacher, collecting all the pearls of wisdom until I could bring them all into my heart and create my own honeypot of bliss. And this is the whole process. When I did finally stop my searching, I never stopped searching. I'm still searching. I'm into neuroscience now. I'm working with other forms of understanding and shamanism and thinking. But when I went into the goddess mode, this what we call Shakti, I discovered a teacher called Guruji Amritananda, who I made a film on, and it's on YouTube. And he initiated me into the Sri Vidya, the Shakti path, the mantra path. And that initiation changed my life and I became a mantra guru as well. So I am able to transmit what the lineage came down to us from Dattatreya and all of them all the way down to me. So
where can we find the video on YouTube?
If you go to Guruji Amritananda and you just search up Guruji Amritananda, you'll see a film by Raja Choudhury will be there.
All right.
All
Good.
right.
So Scott had some other questions, but the whole idea of the goddess also as it's embodied in the feminine, can you talk about that? Because there's something about that, or maybe it's something you don't relate to in that way.
Oh, no, we do, because the reason consciousness is given the masculine description in esoteric terms is because the masculine is passive. It cannot create anything. He cannot do anything. It cannot make worlds. All it can do is contribute seed, and all it can do is build fortresses and fight fights. It can't really do much. The creative principle, why it's called the sacred feminine, is that all consciousness has to be embodied in order for it to come into being. And that embodiment is an act of mother. It is an act of the universal mother, which is called Parashakti, right through to the cellular mother in every cell in your being, right? So the whole principle of Shakti is that at my body, I am Stula, the body of the goddess. At my mind and my imagination, I am Sukshma, the in-between mother who comes and plays with me, and the angelic realms and the light realms and all the beings. And then at the absolute non-dual state, I'm Parashakti. That means the ultimate mother is non-dual. There is no duality. I am Brahman. I am beyond. I am all mind. I am the God of, Spinoza. I am that God. And I think that because we have these three stages in everything we do in Shakti work, the three stages are a meditation in themselves: the body, the mind, and then bang into the other state. So you're continuously going back to that dissolution of the mother all the time.
And so we have to give up our personality. Is that what you think? Or?
No, it's actually the opposite. You become super powerful and super strong in the world and super creative and so you become an observer of the world from that vast consciousness, so that you become a designer, you become an artist. So you're coming back into the world to create worlds. You become Saraswati, you become the great goddess who creates everything. That's how you become. So
I
you're
have
kind
one
of redesigning your life, basically.
I have one more question about people who've had spontaneous Kundalini awakenings without doing any mantra. I know a couple of women in particular who just
Sure.
boom, they've had the kriyas a shake out of nowhere, and it's pretty amazing to see that.
Yes, but it is also early stages of Kundalini awakening. So we have 3 stages in Kundalini awakening in the esoteric teachings. The first stage is that dramatic orgasmic stage where everything goes crazy. You think you're going to, explode. Your body gyrates. You got touched by a guru and you get Shaktipat and blah, 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 everything goes crazy. And that's kind of like sexual orgasmic unleashing of energies in the nadis. That's called Prana Kundalini. That means it is not actually the subtle Kundalini rising. It is all the nadis in your body going, wow, I've never had this before. Fuck me. Sorry, excuse my language, but holy shit. Oh my God, what was that? It was like the best orgasm you've ever had in your life. Or the worst, because then you go into the dark night of the soul and you go, oh my God, I hated that. And it was terrible. I lost control. And you lose that. So the first thing we do is ground people in earth, so that the grounding that's why I made you clench your butt, because by learning to clench your butt, you take control of all those ecstatic beings, right? The second stage, which is called Chit Kundalini, is that suddenly, like in Vajrayana Buddhism, the spinal cord becomes like a pillar of light or music. You start to feel light coming. You start to feel lotuses opening. You start to feel sounds coming, like streaming beautiful sounds. That become much more subtle. No more drama, no more visual experiences, no more fantastic things needed. And then the final stage, which is union, is called Para Kundalini, which means I am now in the middle of the Shushumna, the spinal cord. And they describe it in ancient teachings as an ant crawling up your spine. It is there. So the body disappears, the flesh disappears, the bones disappear, the organs disappear, the sexuality disappears, the visions disappear. You just collapse into this nothing. And all you then feel is Ananda.
Bliss.
And that's true Kundalini awakening. So we try and get there and not orgasmic.
But that doesn't stay with you though, does it? Once that happens, or does it?
That one is permanent. What it is permanent wiring. So if you don't indulge it or talk to it or practice with it, it'll go down, but it's awake. You just have to think about it and it goes whoosh,
Interesting. Alan, that's interesting. The spontaneous Kundalini awakening, can that sometimes be mistaken for mental illness?
It has been probably, but
I agree. And Carl Jung did an entire lecture and book on that you should read. A wonderful book on Kundalini awakening as the 3 stages of the subconscious, the unconscious, the pre-conscious and the conscious mind, the conscious and the pre-conscious mind. And I think that what you have to see there is that when we trigger Prana Kundalini, the ecstatic one, you are triggering all the luggage, all the karmic bullshit, all the stuff of your life that goes boom, exploding. And so you end up, if you're not guided, if you're not grounded, you're going to end up with bipolar instances of depression and ecstasy all at the same time. So you get that swing of polarities that occurs. Now, but that's why you have to keep coming. That's why a teacher is important to bring you back to the center over and over and over again until you achieve that inner thread, of Kundalini,
Go ahead, Scott. Do you have more questions?
I remember sitting with you once, Raja, and you said that, someone who has the Kundalini awaken can literally bend reality. And that's not the reason. We don't do it for the results, but I mean, that's one of the results of the path. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how that works.
Well, I can get Scott and Alan to hang out with me and talk about what I'm doing. I'm bending reality right now. I think that what happens is that when you enter that Para Kundalini state of the Turiya, the observer from the third eye and beyond, you start to become an artist, and the world and life becomes a canvas for you to paint a new picture. So you end up not caught up in the drama of psychological everyday living. You become much more of a detached artist that can weave and move. And in fact, the last, I would say, 5 years of my life has just been that dance of weaving realities that I want to play with and see what happens. Yes, some don't work, some work, but the negativity that came with previous anxiety of trying to make a living or be successful, gone. I am so effing relaxed right now. It's not even funny. It's like, the only person who can still get my goat is my 15-year-old daughter. Even I'm trying to figure that one out. Like, that's about it.
Well, but that's always the karmic path, right? That's your karmic
The
relationship.
householder path I've chosen, exactly. I mean, I hate that word householder, but basically the reason I became a tantric is because I wanted to live well in the world and well in Turiya at the same time, and yet enjoy the beauty of this ecstatic living in my health, in my wellness. I'm nearly 60 now, and I want to radiate that to everybody, that I am younger now than I was at 40. I can do more, I can think clearer, I can do things that I couldn't do at 40. So it's quite amazing.
But what is it that you want to do? So you have this awakening, what is your life path then? What do you want to give to the world?
So here's the thing. There's a wonderful tantric text called the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, which says that there's basically only one thing you have to do, which is to awaken yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if you become an empty vessel for that understanding to come into the world, you will only do right things in the world. You will only act in the right way. Each step will be correct. Each step will have resonance. Each step will vibrate and create frequencies for others to experience that light. It's a kind of gnosis in a way, which is that you become the light, you awaken your inner light, and then you become a light for the world, And I think that's the teaching, which is that I can't fix the world, but I can be a light in the world. And if I am a light in the world, others will become calmer, more tolerant, more loving, less consuming, less crazy, less divisive, less stupid, less fighting for, against each other about rights. Everything will balance because of my existence. And that's the way I want to see it.
But you've achieved that awakening, though, of the self, right?
It's never ending staying awake. Because the world can come and put you back to sleep if you're not careful.
That's what Thomas Jefferson said. He said, the price of freedom is constant vigilance.
So we call it the Turiya state, which is the enlightened witness state, that I am a witness to my drama. And I must remain in that witness awareness 24 hours a day,
Or you can get caught up in the drama with your daughter, 15-year-old daughter.
You do, but I'm better at it now. And so everything you didn't realize from that observer point of view, that it's a drama. But then you have to choose to play the drama well also, So I get to be CEO of my media company. I get to make a film director. I get to be teacher. I get to be husband. I get to be son-in-law. I get to be father.
Are you married now?
Yes.
And what does your wife do? You do the practices with your wife?
My wife believes that she's outsourcing her enlightenment to me.
So she doesn't do the practice.
She does. She's an artist. She does sculpture and pottery, and she does it through that.
Is she in New York too?
No, we live in Princeton now. We moved to Princeton, New Jersey. We were in India for 14 years, and then we moved back and now live in Princeton.
Oh, is she Indian, your wife?
That was the coincidence, is that my whole life I never dated an Indian because I never lived in India. And then I moved to New York and I fell in love with an Indian woman. There you go.
Beautiful. But you're born in India though, right?
No, I was born in Africa.
I was born in Africa. Where?
Yes, I was born in Nigeria, and then I grew up in Sierra Leone. So I never knew India until I was went to live there with my wife and daughter 15 years ago.
Did you have any sort of Hindu education in Africa?
No. My father was a Kali and Swami Vivekananda worshipper and believer, and he believed that we had to find our own way. So we would meditate with him and see what he was doing. But I would say I was a kind of mystical atheist until I had those experiences.
You mean Vivekananda Ramakrishna lineage?
Yes. In fact, my next film that I'm doing for PBS is on Swami Vivekananda. It's called America's First Guru, and I'm putting it out next year. It'll be on PBS nationwide next year.
Because he turned the Parliament of World Religions onto Hinduism.
Well, he turned it into Vedanta and yoga, which is even deeper than Hinduism. You see,
1890 was
1893 in Chicago. And then he spent 3 years here. But what people don't know is that when he set up his society in America, it was New York he chose. So we're making the film in New York. So it's a good film. Yay.
And you have someone, you're reenacting it or just taking a documentary?
No, we're doing a documentary, but we're using an actor called Samrat Chakravarti to voice and channel him into a modern body.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's a PBS film, huh?
Yes, it is a big one. 90-minute PBS film coming next year in the fall.
Wow. Did you ever make, we'll have some ideas for films I'll talk to you about.
We will talk. The only problem with filmmaking, especially documentaries and PBS and public stuff, is that you spend 50% of your time raising money. And then the rest of your time making films and writing scripts and doing what you're going to do.
Right. But let's meet. Let's maybe this weekend. You'll be in town.
I would love to. And so everybody, let me put that screen back on for everybody.
Yes, put that screen because I want to also.
Come and join me on Friday, 2nd September at the Marble Collegiate Church on 29th Street. And come and join me in the Labyrinth Room, and we will go into Kundalini and the third eye together. And we will bend reality, shall we?
Yes, let's bend some reality.
So all you got to do is take this QR code with your camera or type in this URL into your device or computer.
Tiny one, open third eye. Okay, let me put that in the chat.
Yes, please.
In the
I think it is, Alan.
Is it in the YouTube chat? You put it in YouTube.
You have YouTube chat as well.
Put it again, please. By all means, put it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you put it in there.
And put it in the body of your description of today, please.
Yes, I'll do that. Thank you. And we'll get people to there. So there's a fee, but you don't have to talk about that now. But there is a fee for the class.
It's very, very nominal. We need to cover some basic costs, so it's only about $27. So don't worry about it.
Oh, that's all? Only $27.
It's a 3-hour thing, so just come. And we've got a beautiful singer called Sangeeta Chatterjee who is going to sing songs to Kundalini and Kriyas in Bengali and Hindi that will wake up just by listening to the ragas, And so come and listen to her for half an hour, and then I will talk, and then I will help awaken all of us a little bit.
All right. So that Marble Collegian, is that on 5th Avenue and 30th Street? That one?
Yes, 29th Street entrance. 29th Street, yeah.
Okay. And put that, it's tiny.url open the third open.
I'll show it again. There we go.
Okay, good. Because I'm just.
So it's tiny.1/open third eye, and that's it. That's all you have to do. Or you can take your phone and just take the photograph of this.
Right. But I want to put in the online chat.
Yes, please. Tiny.1/open third eye. That's it. That takes you to the Eventbrite page.
www in there. www.
You don't have to. You can just put tiny. It'll automatically take you there.
Okay, good. Good. All right. And that takes us to Eventbrite to get tickets.
That's it.
And it's going to be one day of
Well, right now, I'm doing a big retreat in Sedona on the 19th of September for 3-day workshop, but those I'm beginning to do again in America. So I'll probably do a 3-day workshop in the tri-state area in a couple of months, and I'll let everybody know. Hopefully come back to your channel and tell everybody about it.
Definitely. No, these are I did a whole series on Kundalini Awakening from many people with spontaneous, although you would say that's not real Kundalini, but some people have had that.
Let me tell you a little secret.
Yes.
If that person is not exuding ecstatic bliss, peace, tranquility, glowing skin, they're not awake.
Okay. Well, there are some people who actually were doing
So
that.
that those ones have managed to what we call awaken tejas, which is inner fire, right?
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
And that
Uh-huh.
inner fire glows out of you like a radiant light. Scott, we got you on the screen at the moment, but it's but yeah. So but that inner fire is what we try to cultivate, become a living beacon of light, of fire in the world, you know.
Mm. There's a woman named Dorothy Walters. Have you heard of her?
I don't think so, but I would love to meet
She
her.
wrote some poetry from that
Okay.
beautiful bliss state.
That is very important. I do believe that, and I would love to read that. I will check it out.
I'll put that in the chat. You can see
Please
my
do.
interview with her. She is really a blissed out being and has been that way for 40 years. So
Well, I mean, Scott's been with me for over 3 years, and Scott, I think you've always seen this part of my nature. So I don't change very much.
you don't change, but Scott, I mean, he's a great guy, but where's the bliss, Scott? Where's the bliss?
It's a work in progress.
All right.
There's there's an Indian teacher who wrote a book about his spontaneous Kundalini. Who was that? I read that.
Muktananda.
Muktananda, yeah.
There's Muktananda. There's that other. There's a few other Hindu.
See, what it is that if you read the one book that you should read if you're going to read about Kundalini, I haven't written mine yet, so we'll figure that one out soon. But the one book you should read is a book from the 1918 called The Serpent Power by Arthur Avalon, right?
The Arthur Avalon?
Avalon. His real name was Sir John Woodruff. He was a British magistrate in Calcutta, and he translated all the ancient tantric scripts, and his translation of The Serpent Power is the most authentic and real Kundalini manual there is. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, beautiful.
everything else is interpretation, but this guy really converted old Sanskrit tantric manuscripts into translation. That was very powerful, you know.
Great.
I think Kundalini does show up differently for other people, though. I mean, it's how you.
It's going to show up as Kali, which can remove obstacles and makes you very strong. So, for example, Scott's very successful in what he does in his work. He may be dissatisfied in some other areas, but his samurai nature has come out much more. You know, if you take some people, it comes out as sexuality and beauty and aesthetics. If you take other people, it comes out as super sharp intelligence and laser focus. These are what we call siddhis that emerge, and they're Ashta Siddhi goddesses, Shaktis that come into being if you cultivate Kundalini.
And Kali plays a big role in the system as well.
Yes. I think that Scott is a lethal weapon of Kali waiting to unfold in the world.
How do you want to unfold, Scott, in the world?
That's the program.
Well, I'm looking for. You had a lot of questions for Raja.
I think we got. I mean, I think the other question was we are focusing on the third eye in New York and Sedona.
Yes.
So one thing I wanted. Can I talk about one thing?
Yes, please talk about many things.
So because I have such a strong background in psychedelics, and we are getting into an age where psychedelics are back in popularity, from everything from microdosing to legalization to depression management to everything is being talked about with venture capital now in psychedelics.
Yeah, trauma therapy.
Aromatherapy, psilocybin as a trauma therapy. I love it. And so, having done the kind of, Terence McKenna superdoses and having done acid and having done DMT, I can tell you that this path is work, but it is a rewiring that gives you access to those states and beyond of consciousness that will not need assistance. So I haven't done psychedelics in 18 years or 16 and a half years, not because I judge it and think it's bad, but because for me, it's not essential anymore, right? I can achieve those states of serotonin converting into DMT by myself. I can achieve those states of cerebrospinal fluid ecstatically giving me spinal cord rushes and vagus nerve activation by myself. I can achieve sexuality by myself. I can convert my sexuality into creativity by myself. These become tools that you can use, right? And that's what the awakening can do for you. So what I want to say is that I did this so that I didn't have to rely on the psychedelics anymore. And that was important, you know? And in the process, did I discover religion? No. But I discovered that we're living in a fucking incredible, intelligent universe, you know? And boy, is it intelligent. And you got to figure out how to play with it, you know?
Mm. And Kundalini is one way of learning how to play with it.
Kundalini is an energy system that we have built in, that was hidden in our bodies and waiting to come out to create union with that cosmic dance that's going on.
And it's in everyone.
Everyone.
But most people spend their whole life, though, totally unaware of it.
That's why we like sex so much, because we get a little jerk of it every time, you know.
Is that what orgasm is? A little jerk of Kundalini?
That's what it is.
So you can have this inner orgasm and it doesn't ever have to end. It doesn't have to end.
Well, it diminishes, but it never, like I am in a permanent state of a slight throb in my heart all the time. And all I do is think about it and boom, it goes up, you know. So that rewiring has occurred. And I think many of my students have experienced that rewiring, you know.
So just imagine a world, a planet where everyone had that moment to moment experience.
Well, as Terence McKenna said, we might just have to give everybody a 3-gram trip of psilocybin first, you know.
Well, that was Terence McKenna's Terence said, look, you could spend 20 years or however long in an ashram doing those practices, or you can take the psilocybin.
I agree.
But no,
that's why I'm an advocate of get the experience first, transform your neurochemistry with psychedelics, and then come and learn to practice.
I think we don't need the psychedelics anymore because we're already at a higher vibration.
No, I think that we're actually more dysfunctional than we've been before. And the world that we are facing right now is playing upon polarities and the new technology is not helping very much. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to figure out a way to allow people to go beyond these polarities and dualities and see it from a remote position, this ecstatic union that they're missing out on, and then realize that it's in everything around them, in nature, in other people all the time. And I think unless you do that, how are you going to hack people unless you give that? Is that your book, Making Contact?
That's why I wrote this book, to change the consciousness. It's not a drug, but it's another form of awakening the deeper mind.
Lovely. I will. Can I get a signed copy from you when
yes, okay.
All right.
Yes,
and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be releasing my own book by winter called The Kundalini Code. And I want to come back on your show and talk about it. Okay.
Come back on my show, but also I might do a Kundalini forum in LA. Why don't you come to the LAX? Have you been to the LA Expo? Do you want to lecture there?
I'm, right now I am very happy and flexible and can do many things, and just give me a little warning and what's involved.
Well, it's not till February.
Because at the moment the conferences I'm going to are mostly neuroscience conferences, because I'm kind of the non-local guy that's talking about things and the Turiya state, and I'd love to talk about because what Kundalini has done for me is opened up the Turiya state, which is that non-dual state, which I never knew was possible. I'd read all about it in Vedanta, but I never knew. And now I understand it. And it's wonderful.
Have you been to the Stuart Hameroff Consciousness Conference?
That's where I spoke last. Yeah.
Oh, the one in Tucson.
Yes.
Okay. With Deepak.
He did one thing, I did another thing. I talked about the Turiya state of consciousness in Tantra.
Well, you might want to come to LA then. I'll let you know about
That'll be great.
And then that same week, I think we're going to do a special Kundalini conference somewhere else in Malibu.
I think it's wonderful that you're doing this. And I think that I am now interested in taking the next step on that, which is
what?
Truly hacking your consciousness now.
hacking it with Kundalini or
with
hacking with
anything that works. And forget the word Kundalini for a second. If we can combine art, sacred geometry, breathing, mantra from any culture together, all of that is Kundalini, whether it's the Caduceus of Sumeria, or whether it is the Egyptian thought myths, or whether it is whatever. All of these are known ancient technologies that we're just reviving. So giving it a name, giving it a form, that's great. But more important is to wake up. And I don't give a shit, excuse my language, but what it's called. We just need to wake it up, you know.
But your technology is about waking it up, right?
Yes, but I find that the moment you use the word Kundalini, it puts you into a particular camp and restricts you in your conversation.
I get it.
And that is limiting, because then suddenly I'm Tantric, I'm Hindu, I'm this, I'm yogi, I'm, you know, so I then get stuck in the game of identity again. And boy, we need a bigger conversation right now.
So your job is to wake people up any way they can to this.
My job is to kick your ass and let it lift up and up your spine and out the top of your head and get you connected back to who you are.
Okay. Okay. That sounds like a good mission.
One of the things I do when you meet me is I will give you a good slap on your back that opens up your heart chakra. So come and get that slap from me. It'll be fun.
Okay. Everybody needs.
What was it like for you, Scott?
Yeah, it was. I need that slap.
Did you open your heart chakra, Scott?
Yeah.
Scott's pretty open. I have to say,
Scott is delightful, and he has to work on his throat chakra. He's afraid to speak his truth to the world, and he needs to open his throat chakra and come out.
Well, yeah, he's working on it.
Exactly. And
do we want to hear from some of your students, Mary and
I don't know who's here. Who's here?
Mary P and Kasi.
I don't know if Wendy, maybe she got the time wrong. I don't know.
No, there's two people on the
I
screen.
wouldn't worry
here.
about it. I don't worry about it. You know,
they could
nobody's
their cameras
here.
on. You want to
Nobody's
ask them
here.
to unmute there, Scott?
If they want to ask, anybody in the audience want to ask me a question, I'm happy to take a question.
Let me see. Let me go to my chat. Let's see here. In the future, there'll be one world. Everybody will be deeply connected, and the energy of hierarchy will dissolve. That's what somebody says here. What about the sacred geometries, the flower of life, the dodecahedron, the structures that will be brought into place step by step? What about sacred geometry? How does that fit into this?
So one of the aspects of Tantra, which goes by ancient practices, is the yantra, mandala practice. And so we use yantras a lot in our deeper work. So
yantra, mantra, and tantra, you're saying?
Tantra is mantra with mudra and yantra.
Okay, great. So talk about what yantra is. How is that? What is that?
So a yantra is like a portal. And so if you imagine, I'm walking through the world in New York City, and like Doctor Strange, I turn around and I can create a sacred geometry and I enter another universe, right?
Okay.
That's what a yantra is a portal into another dimension of consciousness.
But people meditate on yantras. Is that the idea?
That is the idea. And then after a while, they become permanently wired in your brain circuits.
And what does that do what does that do? The
wiring? The way, I've been talking with a neuroscientist who works with Stuart Hameroff called Jay Sanguinetti about why sacred geometry seem to be the underlying brain technology that we tend to use to achieve states of consciousness of any kind, right? And so it seems that we are wired to see patterns in that way, whether it's the seed of life, the flower of life, the Metatron's cube, whatever you want to call it, the Merkaba, you can go in any direction you want, right? These sacred geometries, which are, you can call them platonic solids that all intersect with each other. Or you can go with the Indian version, which is the sequences of 8, 9, 7, 20, 44. These are sacred numbers, right? 108. All these numbers create patterns that give us cohesive pattern recognition of a sacred kind of world that we're living in. And so the
Right.
whole world becomes sacred, you know,
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
looking at them, by looking at them. And then by chanting a sound with them, you enter into that gateway.
Mm. Do they become sacred because the yantras or the patterns actually open up the right brain perception? Because we're so left brain linear
Correct.
that when we see the forest instead of the trees, we become right brain beings that connect us to the source, connect us to creativity, to get
Yeah.
out of left brain, beta frequency into alpha, theta, delta ways of understanding.
So you're right. And the way to look at it is not even right brain activation, but dissolution of both sides of the brain.
Mhm.
Gamma states of consciousness, right?
Mm.
Which is the shutting down of what is called the default mode network, which you can achieve through deep states of mindfulness and 10,000 hours of meditation. But the quicker way is to use sacred geometry, because by staring at sacred geometry for lengthy periods and repeating mantras over and over again, you enter theta and then you go straight into gamma, where the left and the right dissolve, the whole body becomes a kind of portal, and you're then open to that, you know.
This is why the Tibetan monks create those mandalas for,
Correct.
weeks.
Absolutely. So that's what we call the kind of Turiya state, which is that can I enter that state of non-dual consciousness while just sitting and staring and chanting, right? And the answer is yes.
Can you enter it just by being without sitting and chanting and staring?
With about 10,000 hours of practice, sure.
Or lifetimes of karmic workouts?
If you buy into that, sure.
Well, you do believe in lifetimes, though, don't you?
I believe that the consciousness which exists at the time of my death determines what happens next.
In next lifetime or next?
Whatever happens next to my consciousness.
You're not sure what happens next.
Or I know what happens if I'm at that subtle level. So for example, let's take an example, okay? Let's say you and I are meditating and we go deep into Turiya state and we forget the body. We're in the heart bliss state. The body is gone, the flesh is gone, the blood is gone, bones are gone, everything is gone, right? If you died at that moment, would you know?
Well, that's transcendence right there. So
Exactly. So the whole idea of the 36 levels of vibration in Shakti and Shaivism is that if I can raise my frequency to above 12, 13, 14 stages of activation, these are inward pulling, right? Inward pulling. Then a state of consciousness comes where I actually bridge into a kind of immortality. Then the body becomes irrelevant and I can choose what to do with my consciousness, even if the body disappears. That's what the Tibetan lamas believe. That's what the Shaivik Shakti believe. That's what we believe, right? That there is a subtle level of consciousness that can continue for a long time, if not immortality, but at least for a long time afterwards.
Now, do you practice that lucid awareness in dream states? Is that a practice?
You practice it in hypnagogic state, between waking and dreaming.
What about in dreaming? When you're dreaming, do you?
No, because
have a
dreaming is an
sense?
in-between state. Dreaming is a state between Jagrat, awakening, and Shushupti, which is deep sleep. And so Sapna, which is the dream state, is an in-between state. So if I am observant in the fourth state of consciousness at that in-between state, I can manipulate it and go lucid. So it is that ability to pull out, see it in the lucidity, and then act on it.
I see. That's good. So talk a little bit more. I know we should go soon, wrap it, but the neuroscience of higher states of consciousness are fascinating. The neuroscience of Kundalini activation, third eye opening. What actually happened? Is there really the pineal gland that is like a little seed that then starts to blossom and pushes that skull open a little bit? Talk about that.
So the current thinking in neuroscience, it is that the entire midbrain is the architecture. And the not the limbic brain, which is the amygdala, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the whole system, and including the cerebrospinal fluid and the activation of the facial vagus nerve right down the spine to the left side, the vagus
Right.
nerve, the heart rate variability. It's one intricate, vast system of consciousness, right? And
As
so
the machinery of consciousness, you mean?
the machinery of consciousness. So,
Right.
so for example, the latest discoveries, even Strassman is talking about it again, is that DMT is not just produced by the pineal gland. It is produced by the stomach. It is produced by the heart center. It is produced in various places in the human body right now. But DMT is the visual state of the third eye opening, meaning that I see occipital, I see visions, I see experiences. But what about feeling? What about hearing? What about sound? What about those other states of consciousness that come from other molecules and other neurotransmitters, right? So
Right.
I think that we're just beginning to map the whole thing, and it's going to take a while, but it's getting there. It's getting slowly.
Well, that is the most interesting part. What happens
I love it. I love it.
in an awakened brain, a fully aware, activated brain? How is that different than someone who's unconscious, who hasn't had a Kundalini awakening? You know, there is actually, you might be interested in that in some people who have had UFO contact.
Yes.
And also remote viewers, the pudnam and the cadmium are more developed. Have you seen those studies?
No, but
Gary Nolan talks about
yes,
it.
I heard about that, and about the caudate nucleus as well being a part of it.
Yes, there's
Right.
more.
And
Yeah.
that was that's not been proven yet, but it's an interesting theory. It is an interesting theory.
Well, it's more than a theory. They've seen it. I don't know what causes that. It could be something that happens at birth, or it could be something that is activated in the context of anomalous experiences.
I mean, I know, for example, through my own practices and working with other Kriyaban masters, is that certain rear of the back occipital activations of Kriya breathing, right, can trigger apparitions, right?
Are you triggering apparitions, or are you seeing through the dimensions?
No, you are triggering archetypes to try and explain what you're experiencing.
Are you sure?
Yes.
There are archetypes or manufacturers of the mind, or they're not?
Who can ever be sure about this? Nobody.
Okay, I don't know. I'm just saying.
But okay, so let's say, for example, that somebody at a higher frequency, or an intelligence at a higher frequency, wants to communicate with us, right?
Yes. Yes.
Let's take that.
Okay.
Let's take that argument.
Okay.
The Indian philosophy says that it's going to come to you in a form that you can understand.
I would say maybe it doesn't come in a form you understand. It helps push you to understanding.
Yes, and so that's where we get the Therianthrope theories, the alien theories, all these theories, and I agree with them. So, for example, why would I see a Ganesh with an elephant head and a human body? Why would I see a Therianthrope? Why would I see a being with very big eyes and a big tongue that may be an alien, right? Like Kali. Why would I see all that? So, yes, I think they are information being relayed to us to awaken us. You know, we call them yoginis and dakinis and bhairavis and bhairav and all those things. And the closest mapping I have seen to it being a psychology is the Tibetan stuff. There's no doubt about that, you know. Yeah.
But wait, I have one more question. Aren't we actually the embodiments? The Great Mother is in form in the human body, playing out this level of experience, but we're just an aspect of a greater being. Would you say that's true? No, I don't know. I'm just asking.
I would say that we are that greater being, and we are correspondents. So we are as above, so below, as below, so above. There's no difference. There's no difference.
Okay, I'll buy that.
In fact,
like that.
The universe is a complete construction of my own being, of my mind.
Or you construction of the universe is mine. I guess it's the same thing, right?
It's Isn't that a beautiful dichotomy? I love it. Yeah. It is exactly that who imagined what first,
Mm.
I remember I was with a teacher once, and they said, that when you close your eyes, does this world go away? And they remove all the stage sets and they remove all the lighting, and then you open your eyes, and whoops, they have to put it all back together again suddenly for you, you know. And in fact,
Exactly.
in one of the Kashmir Shaivism teachings, they talk about the 36 tattva, the Sadashiva, the ultimate consciousness of Brahma, or Brahman,
Mhm,
right,
mhm.
as a projector.
Yes.
So at which point do you go from being an actor to a behind the camera director? That's going to be the interesting switch you have to make.
But it's happening all the time. It just depends what
All
your
the time.
perspective is.
And that's what goes back to Scott's earlier point that I was trying to talk about, which is bending reality. Because
Right. Thank
what
you.
is reality then? Then everything changes, right?
Mhm.
And then everything changes.
Well, that's why I call this program New Realities,
I
because
love it.
that's
I love it. I love
because
it.
that's what we're after. How do we create the bending of reality?
I have met many beings in this journey. They come in archetypical forms sometimes, and they come in bizarre new forms sometimes. Archetypically, I get El Moria and Madame Blavatsky and all those people come for me because that's who influenced me very early on and affected my psyche in deep, deep ways. So they come as guides and they help me. It's
Mhm.
never Manly Hall or any of Napoleon Hill or any of those guys. It's always Blavatsky and those guys.
If you come down to 15th Street in Irving Place, you could see where Blavatsky wrote
Yes,
Isis Unveiled over
yes,
there.
yes. It's in the East Village. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
walked by there once, yeah.
And have you been to Aja outside of Chennai where the
Yes,
Theosophical
I've spent many times there. I've been there many times. I love it.
Right, right.
One of the most beautiful botanical gardens in the world.
But also frozen in time, right? Don't you get
It
the
is. It's
feeling
kind
just
of
like,
lost in time in a way.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
No, I think that after Blavatsky, Alcott, Besant, and all of them, Leadbeater, took it in a weird direction. I think
well, the
that,
whole Krishnamurti fiasco.
yeah, making him the Maitreya and trying to make
Yeah,
him the
yeah,
Maitreya
yeah.
was too much. And
And
I'm glad he quit. I'm glad he
the
said,
pathless path was a
I'm
great
glad he did
speech.
that. I'm glad he did
Yes,
that.
yes,
In a
yes.
way, I always say the same thing that really speaking, I'm just training you to be your own guru. But I'm getting rid of your crutches, but crutch by crutch by crutch. Krishnamurti just said, there is no crutch, throw it all away. I'm
Yeah,
saying, no, get rid of the crutches, but slowly, steadily along the
right.
way.
Guru, Guru, right? Isn't that what they say?
My daughter thinks I'm more like Gru in the Minions and that show, that comic character.
I don't know it.
Brew. You never seen that? I look like Brew. I look
I
like Brew.
I don't watch television. I just make
Oh, it's a
television. I don't
movie. It's
watch
a
it.
movie. It's a movie. It's a
Oh, it's
movie.
a movie. But it's really great. I hope you have a really successful workshop. And
This is my home in America, New York, New Jersey. I love it. And so I thought I would start by doing something in New York because I'm popular in the West Coast. I'm popular down south, and I just want to bring something back to my city, and it'll be fun.
oh, nice. So you haven't done a workshop here before.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's hook you up with some yoga centers too, like Jivamukti and places
Yeah,
like
sure.
that.
I thought they were closed. When they closed?
No, I think they were sold, but I think they're still, maybe they were closed. I haven't been there in a while, but there's some great centers here in New York.
I think let's have some big open dialogues with mystics and neuroscientists. Let's have some fun with that.
Neuroscientists. Yeah, I'd like to host something like that. Let's
I
do
think that'd
like
be
a,
great. Let's get Sam Harris and others like that around. It'll be fun.
yeah, yeah, I'd like that. And Stuart Hameroff and
Yes, Stuart I can reach, but we can get Jay Sanguinetti, we can get a whole bunch of people from Singularity University, we can get people from
well,
Stanford,
let's do like an online.
and maybe some psychedelic researchers as well, and bring it all together in a conversation.
I know Rick Doblin. I know some of those
sure,
people. So
sure. And then we have Chalmers here in New York already, who does the guy who's coined the phrase "the big problem about consciousness." He believes in non-local consciousness. He's an interesting
I
guy.
believe in non-local consciousness
There
because
you go. There you
I
go.
teach remote viewing. So
Good.
They
Good.
get some of the remote viewers on, like Russell Targ, Hal Putoff,
Yes.
if you know that.
Yeah, I do.
So-
I do.
We could do a whole forum, online forum on consciousness.
I think that it goes back to a conversation that began in San Francisco that needs to continue about the human potential and where we can go. And I think that, Esalen tried to do that, and it's great what they did, but I think it's time for a new neuroscience-based, AI-based world of conversation.
This is what Joe Dispenza's doing. You know Joe Dispenza?
Yes.
He's at the leading edge of that sort of new technology.
But I think that we've also got to understand that scientists don't take Deepak Chopra and Neil Dispenza seriously, and so we got to work with scientists also.
But
And
Joe has the science to back up what's
I
happening.
know, but not the scientists, and that's the problem, right?
Right.
The problem is that where the scientists went over the last 20 years was with the Dalai Lama's thinking of mindfulness and the mind and consciousness and compassion and that world that they were talking about. But I think he froze. Have you frozen? Oh, you're not frozen. You just look very still and meditative.
Oh, okay. No, keep talking.
But
Keep talking.
I think that there's a new conversation to be had of the kind of neuroscientist mystic in a way,
I'm interested in that. Yeah.
I would love to do something like that. So
Let's put on a forum. Yeah.
All right, guys, it's 7:20. We've been at it for a while. Scott, how you doing?
Good. That's great.
All right. Thank you. I look forward to.
Okay, just one more time. I'll show that slide if you don't mind.
Yes. Show that slide, and everyone watching online.
Okay, everybody come on Friday, the 2nd of September to Marble Collegiate on 29th Street. You can see the details here by scanning the QR code.
Just hold your camera up to that little picture. It'll give you the website, and then you just go to Eventbrite and sign up. And it's only $27, right?
Yes.
That's a great price.
I'm not making money on this one. I'm doing it for return to the love city I love.
All right. Maybe you'll get, this is a worldwide audience. So depending where people are.
And my plan is to do one every 2 months in New York. So we'll figure it out together.
Okay. And maybe you'll do something in Los Angeles. I'll talk to you about that.
I think it's a good idea. I would love to look at the LA Expo with you.
Okay. It's a good crowd they get there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show and sharing your life and your wisdom and your passion. That's really what I get from you. It's like, this is what you love to talk about and share and help other people.
It's wonderful. I do love this. I do love that I'm able to make a living doing what I love. And that's a beautiful thing to do in life. And I wish everybody that miracle in their lives,
Yes. And thank you, Scott, for your participation.
Thank you, Alan. And thank you,
And
Raja. It's great.
we'll do it again. Okay.
Okay.
See you guys.
Hundreds and thousands of people will see this and come and join me on Friday. It'll be great.
Well, actually, I looked at your channel. You have a lot of 100,000 subscribers.
Yes, I know, but most of them are all over the world. So very few in New York. But I'm getting, we've sold, I think, already 30 something tickets. So I'm very happy with the number.
We'll sell some more.
And I hope you will come and please, come.
I'm not sure I'll be in New York that day, but let me see.
Find a way and the will be there.
Okay. Well, I think it's the other way around.
Okay, find the will and the way will be there.
Right.
All right, brother. It's been lovely.
Thanks so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.